Good evening.
Must be 7 o'clock.
I'll see what I can do for the next meeting.
Good evening. The hour being 7 PM on Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting. Before we go any farther on our agenda, I'd like to have you all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd ask our new city manager, Kirk Piatti, if you'd lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kirk. We're joined by our recording secretary and city clerk, Kitty Gargano, and I'd ask her to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Here.
Counselor Susie,
Council Susie is away. I'm in a hotel room alone in a different time zone.
So we'll be taking all votes tonight by Zoom, by
by
roll
roll call. Counselor Littman,
Present.
Counselor Haynes,
Here.
Counselor Felch,
Here.
Mayor Hosmer.
President, we're also joined this evening by our, as I indicated earlier, our new city manager, Kirk Piatti. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Glenn Smith, who's handling some of our IT stuff. Glenn is our finance director. Thank you, Councilor Cheney. Item number 7 under our agenda this evening is minutes of the regular city council meeting of September 26, 2022, which were distributed to the council on October 4th, 2022, with no corrections or changes. The minutes will be accepted as distributed. Item number 8 is our consent and action items. These are recommendations for appointments to boards and commissions. The appointment subcommittee met on September 26th, 2022, and interviewed several candidates for appointment or reappointment to the city's boards and commissions. The appointment subcommittee strongly recommends the appointment of the following individuals for their terms. Lisa Moran, requesting reappointment as a regular member of the Conservation Commission to a 3-year term expiring at the end of August 2025. Joan Mercer, requesting appointment as a regular member of the Laconia Putnam Fund to a 5-year term expiring at the end of March 2027. Charlie St. Clair, requesting reappointment as a regular member of the Downtown TIF District Advisory Board to a 3-year term expiring at the end of August 2025. Michael Della Vecchia, requesting reappointment as a regular member of both the Planning Board and the Zoning Board to 3-year terms expiring at the end of June 2025 and August 2025 respectively. Greg Page, requesting reappointment as a regular member of the Water Commission to fill the remainder of Joe Driscoll's term and to a term expiring at the end of June 2024. And Phil Smith, requesting appointment as a regular member of the Water Commission to a 3-year term expiring at the end of June 2025. Looking for a motion right now to move that the City Council approves the appointment or reappointment of candidates to city boards and commissions as presented and recommended by the appointment subcommittee, so made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Susie wanted to.
Go right ahead, Councilor Susie. Sorry about that.
No problem, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. I'd just like to thank the rest of the members of the appointments committee. We spend quite a bit of time with each of these candidates, and thanks to the council for their, we present our recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Without any further questions or comments, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes,
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Congratulations and thank you to everyone who raised their hand, taking advantage of the opportunity to serve the city of Laconia. Moving on to item number 9, which is citizens' comments for not on the agenda. If you have a comment to make to a matter regarding the city and it's not on tonight's agenda, now would be the appropriate time. Please step forward, introduce yourselves, and speak up. Seeing none, we'll move right along to public hearings. Agenda item number 13, which is the request to accept 7 private roads under the Accept As Is program. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the September 12th, 2022 edition of Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. I'd like to open the public hearing on this matter at 7:05 PM. Anyone who is here or online who wishes to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing no one has stepped forward, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:06 PM. This matter may be taken up under unfinished business later on in tonight's meeting. Item number 13B is, which is a public hearing in regards to resolution 2022-12 to authorize the acceptance of an additional $122,811.80 in New Hampshire Department of Safety, Office of Highway Safety Grant Funds. Notice of this public hearing was made available in September 28th edition of the 2022 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. I'd like to open this public hearing at 7:06 PM. If there's anyone here who would like to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time. As no one has stepped forward to speak to that matter, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:07 PM. Once again, this matter would be taken up under unfinished business later on at tonight's meeting. Moving right along to item number 14A, which is the presentation of the parking study phase of the downtown urban planning study. So welcome.
Little technical difficulties, working through it now.
No pressure, Wes. There we go.
And we should be up.
Yep.
Yep, okay. I'm Wes Anderson, Director of Public Works, and tonight's presentation is on the downtown urban study. And it actually is being done in 2 phases. The first phase is still strictly with parking. The second phase, which is due at the end of December, is more the technical aspects in regards to other things that we can do in the downtown to improve the mobility and the parking capabilities of the downtown area. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg Strangeways from Walker Consultant.
Thanks, Wes.
Hi, Greg. Welcome. Nice to have you back.
Thanks for taking the time here. So as Wes said, I'm just going to focus on phase 1 of the study, which is the part that's completed, and it was scheduled this way so that we could give you information at this time to help with your decision about the municipal garage. So this is really to get a handle on parking supply and demand in the downtown area, both now and then projected in the future. To just briefly, our firm, Walker Consultants, we do a lot of this type of work. For some people, we may be known more for parking garage design or restoration, but from the beginning, we were founded in 1965. We've always done a lot of operations, financial studies, and planning studies like this. So the study is focused just on the downtown areas that is, bounded. You can see the screen, by the railroad tracks, Beacon Street West, and the Winnipesaukee River. So we did treat this whole area as one zone. We didn't divide it into sub areas. It's a fairly compact area. Typically for parking, we use, up to 1,000 feet walking distances. less than a 5-minute walk for most people. And you can pretty much get from any parking space to almost any destination here. So this, it is just one zone in our results here. And again, this is just phase one, which we completed in September to help with this garage decision. And then we're going to be working, we can come back and talk about the rest of the project later. We expect to wrap up by the end of calendar year. So part of this phase was outreach. So we did this in a number of different ways. We did have an online survey, which got about 130 responses. We did have a couple of meetings. There was a public meeting at Belknap Mill. There was also a Rotary Club meeting at Belknap. And then also as we were walking around and then specifically going into businesses and talking to people, and we did a lot of interviews with people. So some of those were kind of more in depth, probably about 20, 25 people. And then some were kind of quick interactions, but just asking about parking. The themes that came out of it, both from the survey and from interviews, were similar. There wasn't really differences between them. A lot of it was that people didn't really have trouble finding a parking space most of the time, that most people were able to park where they preferred. On this chart, you can see here 20% less than acceptable. Some of that dissatisfaction was with the mix of spaces. So it's not that there wasn't enough space, but that some of the spaces are time restricted where you can park 2 hours only. So we'll look at that in the next phase. But overall, that was, one key finding here was that most people are able to find parking quickly in the downtown. So this was just looking at the city-owned spaces, not specifically at the private lots. We did quick observations of the private lots to see if there was a lot of capacity there that might someday be used. But anyway, the detailed study was really city-owned spaces in that study area. So that was some of the garage spaces were blocked off at the time, as the top level and some on the second level, but there was 98 available in the garage. A lot of the surface lots, so that's the Main and Pleasant lot, the Beacon Street West lot, the City Hall lot here, and the new Church Street lot. And then all of the on-street spaces in that study area. So 713 altogether. Then we took occupancy data all day on a Wednesday and a Friday. In August, that was, a busy season. You have visitors here. So that was the idea of doing it then. So at the peak, out of those 713, only 380 were occupied. That's just over half. For the off-street spaces, including the surface lots in the garage, just under half. And then as we often find in downtowns, little higher percentage occupancy in the on-street. Those are, typically more convenient. People see them first. But still, overall, that leaves a lot of available spaces. So that's 333 available. And even if the garage were not there, 235 available on the peak day that we saw in August here. Overall, again, as you might expect, as we find in a lot of places, the spaces in the core of that study area were more occupied and a little less on the edge. So Main Street, those spaces did turn over and were the most heavily used there. And then some of the least used were that the Church Street lot and the garage, and then some on Beacon Street, in the Beacon Street West lot, and even some of the on-street at the edges of the study area. So again, that's kind of a typical pattern. That's probably what you would expect, but that there is available space, and it is kind of on the edges of the area in many cases, and not too far a distance. And then looking at the future, so we use the Urban Land Institute shared parking model. This is the industry standard. Obviously, projecting the future, it's a model. It's not an exact science, but we did really try to calibrate this model, with what we saw on the ground here in August. And then we looked out 5 and 10 years, so 2027, 2032. And then we modeled a couple of different, obviously the recovery from COVID is still an X factor here. So we believe that what we were seeing in August was office workers at 40% presence in the offices compared to pre-pandemic. So even when the space was occupied, that it was only about 40% of the use that we saw pre-pandemic. And that's what we've seen from a lot of research around the country, and also it calibrated well with the occupancy we saw, because we also got parcel by parcel data from the city about what spaces are occupied, what type of land use, what's vacant as best we could tell. So going forward, then we projected a full pre-pandemic office use at 100%, and then a sort of hybrid model at 60%. And again, today, what we believe what we're seeing is 40%. So both of those are people coming back to offices more than they are today. Then we also projected all of the vacant space filled in downtown. So a lot of that's over the storefronts on Main Street. And again, if a parcel was completely vacant, the assessor's database had that. If it was partially vacant, the database didn't have that, but we talked to people. We tried to, get that as best we could. We did also look at special events. So you have, what we believe 3 venues here, which can hold a lot of people. So that's the Colonial Theater and Cake and the Granite State Music Hall. So we did actually model, if all of them had events, that kind of thing. And then we looked at the future supply with and without the garage, because that seems to be the decision you're faced with. So this is 2027, 5 years from now. What we're projecting here for demand is actually 70% more parking than we saw this year. So that's a lot of growth in 5 years. Most of that is not new development. The city did project that there's going to be 20 new residential units in that timeframe. A lot of that is people coming back to the office again. What we're showing here is that 100% scenario that people go to the office as they did before COVID. So we didn't want to understate the demand here. We're probably overstating it. Nevertheless, as we recover from COVID, it could turn out that people work more Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, less Monday and Friday. That's what we're starting to see. So even if overall use is down, if you just look at an average weekday, there may be peak days that are higher than others. So this is if everybody comes back to the office as they did before COVID. And this is the other big factor, that all this vacant space downtown is filled. So we looked at state, county projections. There isn't, rapid growth happening here, but there's steady growth. It looks like, the downtown has turned around and activity is starting to increase. And it's probably partly why you're doing the study. So it's, gradual growth, but a lot of this 70% higher than today is both because the vacant space would be filled and because people would go back to offices more like they did pre-COVID. So all that's for 2027. So again, it's probably overstating demand a little bit. Even if all of that happens and you don't have the garage, there are small deficits of parking during the summer, really, during your tourist season, 37 space deficit. And again, that's going to be on your busier days. It's going to be during the middle of the day. What we saw, in August was basically 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. is kind of your highest use during the day. So if you didn't have the garage and all this happened by 2027, you would have potentially small parking deficit in the downtown area. Since we already had 2032 doesn't look that much different. It's a 64 space deficit. But that's because by 2027, we already had everybody coming back to the office in that pattern and all the vacant space filled. So most of that is just, again, kind of very gradual growth. The city had said there would be projected 50 new residential units in that second 5-year timeframe, 2027 to 2032. You get further out, obviously everything, gets a little hazier, but if people don't come back to the office in that full pre-COVID mode, it actually turns out the weekends in our model turn out to be the higher occupancy. And there's also could be events in the evening, but for both of those, you may have more supply where people can use some of the private lots for businesses that are closed. You may be able to do some other things. So that may not be so much. It sounded like people here have viewed the weekday as the peak parking demand. So the chart there anyway shows a small deficit if you don't have the garage, and then a pretty large surplus if you completely renovated the garage and had 215 spaces there. Oh, and that's it. So I'm happy to do questions if you want.
Subject to your questions, that really completes what we have in results of the study.
Right ahead. Council Littman. Thanks, Greg.
In the handout, you talk about the cost of the garage. Do you estimate part of the study, the alternative of not building the garage and taking it down? Because it can't
That was
necessarily.
not part of his task order. In 2017, we did a rough estimate someplace around $1 to $2 million to deconstruct the garage and put the roof on top of the the buildings underneath it.
I thought I heard a number much higher than that based on inflation to the 2017
Well,
number.
again, that would have to be adjusted, but we have not done anything further because we'd have to go through and determine what the current costs are for that particular type of work.
I guess it matters to me and sort of adjudicating these results, what that looks like. And I'm not looking for an answer right now because you don't have it with you, but that's what I'm looking for to understand.
Counselor Cheney.
Wes, this is kind of a convoluted question, but for the sake of discussion, if we take the garage down, then 10 years from now decide it needs to go back up versus we leave it and fix it, how much more expensive do you think it would be to rebuild it from the ground up? And I'm not looking for an exact dollar, but
When we did the estimate for to do the 8.6, we also did an estimate to do what would be building new for the same amount. And it came out to be about $30,000 to $35,000 of space for rehab versus about $50,000 of space right now for new construction.
all right, I think that answers my question. Thank you.
Any further questions? All set? Counselor Felch.
I'm good.
Thank you very much, Wes. Thank you very much, Greg. Appreciate your work on this and certainly a work in progress here. We look forward to the second half of the report. Counselor Susie, I'm sorry. You're not on the screen, so I didn't know if you had any questions.
No, I'm all set. It should be on the screen.
Oh, you're there now. Yes, you weren't, so I just overlooked you, but so long as you don't have a question, we can move on. Terrific. Moving on to item number 15, which is the mayor's report. Just briefly, as many of you know, and a couple of you have attended, I believe. I know Counselor Susie and Counselor Haynes attended. We have our citywide forums in regards to housing instability and homelessness. As Officer Eric Adams has tried to assist in getting these forums in every ward in the city, not because only people from that ward can attend those forums within that ward. It is really for convenience sake to make sure that those who maybe have some mobility issues or just out of convenience can attend them. I appreciate Counselor Susie and Counselor Haynes attending the first two. They were pretty well attended, and I think what we've seen is a really very good discussion about the issues that we're experiencing, whether it's the lack of housing in the city and maybe some ideas what to do about it, all the way down to those who are experiencing homelessness and maybe taking up a little extra time from business owners or police department in regards or the fire department in responding to some situations around the city. So we do have meetings continuing now. They will be publicized in the Laconia Daily Sun. They'll be on Laconia Links. Hopefully we're going to get it up on the front page of the website, city website as well. But the next one is October 17th at the middle school. The 20th at Levitt Park. Third is November 3rd is a virtual on Zoom. November 7th, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And November 10th, Woodland Heights Elementary School. They'll all be at 6 p.m. So certainly if that fits into your schedules, I hope that you'll attend the one that's in your ward. If not, maybe attend another one or at least a virtual one. Certainly it makes a difference to have the maximum input from our community, and certainly individually, we're going to struggle to have answers for a very complex problem, but as a group, we have a better chance of coming up with some ideas here, putting a plan in place, a strategic plan by the end of the year, something that we can take some steps and address this matter. So anyway, I will keep my remarks short and I will conclude them right there. Moving on to number 16, which is council comments. Councilor Cheney, nice to see you this evening.
Nice to be seen. So unusual for me to make comments. I was hoping we could ask the city manager to review with the Parks Department the possibility of the city returning Pumpkin Fest to our departments to take. I was very disappointed to hear about another attempt to move Pumpkin Fest out of the downtown area. And I'd like to ask the manager to find a way to take this over and get it back growing in the downtown.
Sounds like you've got your first
I
action
have
item
the
on your.
task. I'm shocked it came from next to me here, but no, we can do that. I've talked to the Chamber of Commerce already about this year's, and we'll continue talking about next year's. And I think I can intend that the consensus is to where we'd like to have it and what we'd like to see it look like, and I'll work on that.
Councilor Cheney,
Thank you. That's
city manager, be thankful it's only one.
It's one thing tonight.
for a change. I want to break him in slowly.
Councilor Haynes.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, oh, hold on, I'll get you next step.
Go ahead,
Councilor
Bob.
Susie.
Bob can go.
No, go ahead.
I got you. Go right ahead. Okay, thank you. Along that same line, though, I think I'm struggling with the fact that over the last couple of years prior to COVID, well, after COVID, but anyways, it seems that every time we talk about Pumpkin Fest, it seems they want to move it somewhere else. And I'm just wondering if we really need to have a philosophical discussion with the chamber. And I'd hate to see that we reach a point where we're upsetting the chamber and the chamber's upset with us. And I'm just wondering if we should have a conversation as to what the philosophy is of the Pumpkin Fest. From my standpoint, Mayor, I was thrilled to death that it was going to be something that was Laconia's. We can't claim 4th of July, we can't claim Memorial Day, but this is something for the city of Laconia. And I think the philosophical conversation has to be that, as I see it, that it was a family affair. And, for little kids and, the families, whether they want to bring the dogs or not, whatever. But it was a family affair, and it was having a downtown was so that the citizens could come downtown, see what's available, have some fun, the kids' pumpkin alley and the whole works. And it just seems to me that, if we want to move it, to Tanger Outlet, then we want to move it to the pavilion, then we want to move it to Weirs. Is our philosophy and our mission is for our citizens to have a good time in a festival, or is this, we need to make a profit and that's why we need to move it somewhere else? So I would hope, Kurt, that and maybe you two, Mayor, could have a conversation. I would hate to see that this end up with, the chamber being upset with the city and the city being upset with the chamber, so that the two parties could sit down, have a conversation of what the philosophy is and what the mission is. And so that we can move forward, that it's, and the long and the short of it is, if we want to combine some activities in the Weirs, we want to combine some activities in the lake, I think that's wonderful. And I think that that's something that could be done. But I would hope that we could have this conversation so that, all the parties understand the mission and where we want to go with this.
Thank you, Councilor
Thank you,
Haynes.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Susie.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to go back to when we originally brought Pumpkin Fest to the city of Laconia as the City of Laconia Pumpkin Fest, with a priority, I believe, was to bring it downtown for families, as Councilor Haynes brought up. It was enormously accepted the first year. COVID messed things up for the next couple of years. And I really think the city of Laconia needs to take the lead on this. I think our Parks Department, maybe along with a a subcommittee or a steering committee working with them, made up of members of maybe of the council and other people, should really take the lead on this. This is, I'm not getting into the finances or the profits or losses or anything else like that. But this was fully acclaimed, and as if you read in the papers, there's other cities within the state of New Hampshire that are trying to take from this. This is the Laconia Pumpkin Festival, and we should keep it downtown for the benefit of the families and the people of the Lakes region, and anywhere else can come over from all over the country. I know people that came from Massachusetts and New York last time, and they thought it was awesome. So, and as in regards to the chamber, was doing a lot of this without really consulting us or coming in, and that was, this is a city of Laconia Pumpkin Fest. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Susie. Any other council comments? How about liaison reports? No liaison reports this evening. Perhaps in the first 2 weeks of November, we can schedule a meeting, sort of a debrief over in regards to Pumpkin Fest this year, and take up some of the issues that have been suggested by Councilor Haynes and Councilor Susie. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take care of that. We'll get that scheduled.
The liaison reports this evening. Okay. Moving on to item number 19, which is citizens' requests.
We have committee reports.
Well, we got committee reports. Oh, the committee reports. Yes, sorry. Committee reports. I jumped right over committee to go to liaison.
Finance has a meeting to schedule the 24th. We're suggesting at 6 PM to take up the updated draft of the welfare guidelines. Make that as a motion.
Is there a second on the motion? Councilor Cheney. Any further discussion on the scheduling of the meeting? Seeing none. Going to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes and it will be scheduled. What's the date again?
24th at 6 PM here.
October 24th at 6 PM. Any other committee reports? Moving on to item number 19. There, I don't think there is a 19A. We'll just stick with 19, right? It's actually a 20A. Anyway, citizens request to comment on current agenda items. If there is a matter on tonight's agenda that you would like to speak to, now would be the appropriate time. I encourage you to step forward. I would also encourage you, since there's a sizable group here, keep the comments to 3 minutes or less, and let's perhaps try not to repeat what another person has testified to. So come forward. Welcome.
Good evening, council. I am attorney Connor O'Neill with Westcott Law, and I'm here on behalf of the residents of Bobby's Way as it relates to the transfer of the beach known as 20 Indian Path. As you know, during last month's city council meeting, the council voted no to transferring the beach, allowing my client Bobby's Way and the Paugus Bay Beach Association to take a month to sit down, negotiate, and see whether we could reach some sort of an accord, as to our competing visions for what the beach would look like in the future. And in the meantime, we have done just that. After much discussion amongst my client's neighborhood, we were able to formulate a list of requests and restrictions that we had for the beach in terms of our vision, and we're able to send that letter over on September 22nd, 2022 to the PBBA. That letter, to spare you the specific details, had a number of requests that we included, namely no construction of any permanent or temporary structures on the beach, no day dock to be built within the first 5 years, a request for a 1, 3, and 5-year plan, said plans to include some sort of a system for tiered membership in the association, one tier being a basic tier that only managed assessments for people who wanted to continue to use the beach within its historical use. just to maintain the beach as it is now. And then a second tier that, if they so choose, could pay for, additional improvements that were voted on at a later time, not only the construction of them, but maintenance. And then a proposed cap to yearly association fees. The last 4 items that we requested were a carry-in, carry-out policy for trash, an agreement not to sue or impose any liens against people with deeded rights to use said beach, which was very important to us, a requirement that any changes to the beach be approved by 2/3 of those with deeded rights to the beach, and then finally, an acknowledgement of the existing restrictions, covenants, deeds, servitudes, et cetera, and some sort of an acknowledgement, an affirmation that the PBBA at no point would request any changes be made to these existing rights of way, these deeded rights, whether it be for members of the association or not. So since sending that letter on the 22nd, we received a response last Thursday from the PBBA and their attorney, Ethan Wood. And their response indicated some willingness to meet, a few of the requests that we had, despite us still being far apart and in the process of negotiation. Their letter specifically mentioned a willingness not to construct a bathhouse only on the beach for the first 3 years, with the caveat that they'd like to produce or like to build a shed upon the beach. The second was a willingness to agree to a 3-year prohibition on the day dock, a concurrence that a tiered system of membership made sense based on what we had proposed. And then finally, the support for the carry-in, carry-out policy for trash with no trash receptacles to be placed on the beach. Now, over the weekend, since this past Thursday, my clients had an opportunity to meet and discuss the letter. And today we spent an immense amount of time drafting additional proposals and trying to work some sort of a memorandum of understanding out with the PBBA in advance of today's meeting to, again, meet the purpose of why we're all here, which was to spend the month negotiating, trying to meet some sort of a mutual agreement in between that served all parties. Unfortunately, in advance of this meeting, despite multiple discussions with my client, with Attorney Wood, we were unable to meet or make some sort of an understanding or agreement in advance of the meeting. So tonight, we're here asking for one of 2 things. First would be some sort of agreement, whether it be an inclusion in the terms of the deed or some other condition upon the transfer of the beach to include some of these things that we have agreed on, namely the prohibition against the building of a bathhouse on the beach for at least the first 3 years, the prohibition against the day dock for 3 years, the tiered system of membership, and the carry and carry out policy with no receptacles. And in the alternative, or in addition to, because we, again, have spent so much time trying to negotiate back and forth, and I believe that we've made substantive progress and both parties have put forth a good faith effort to try to meet in the middle and negotiate, that the city council, before transferring the beach, allow us 1 more month before transferring the beach to continue negotiations, continue to sit down, spend time discussing the more nuanced issues at hand, and to, again, meet that goal of reaching some sort of mutual assurance between the parties as to what to do with the beach. Does anyone have any questions, anything like that? Yes.
Council Whitman.
In terms of your last request of the additional month, do you feel that the negotiations you described as good faith up to this point, that good faith negotiations would continue over that month?
I believe so. I mean, like I stated, we spent countless hours just today down to the wire trying to work out some sort of an MOU. I sent a draft to an Attorney Wood around 4:30 or 5 o'clock today. He was able to respond to me. And, even in these wee hours leading up, we have still been working towards some sort of a negotiation where we can agree on what to do with the beach. And I do think that going forward in the next month, we can continue from where we're at and try to, again, work towards some sort of a mutual agreement between the parties if we're afforded that extra month before the beach is transferred.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Ethan Wood. I'm an attorney with Normandin, Cheney and O'Neill, and the Paugus Bay Beach Association is my client. I I'm sure it doesn't come as a surprise that my client disagrees that an additional month at this point is going to make any substantive difference. Parties have been talking for over a year. There have been 12 meetings where Bobby's Way was included in this. I think it's true that all people involved have a desire to make sure that the beach property stays in a good condition and that it is used appropriately. And that is certainly something that my clients believe strongly in, because again, no one wants this to be an eyesore. With regard to the transferring of this property, I don't think there's any reason to delay it as far as this goes. These are discussions that we can continue to have with regard to the Bobby's Way people. They're certainly welcome to become members. They're certainly welcome to put forth requests in the association and to garner support among the other members and to vote to include them. So with regard to that, I don't necessarily know that there's any benefit that the city would realize by delaying this further. With regard to the numbers, I did send updated numbers to your city manager. There are now over 30 people, I believe, who are in the PBBA, or 30 properties that have agreed to become members or are in the process of exploring membership. And so I think that is over half of the potential property owners that would have deeded rights to this. Again, with regard to some of the specific concerns, these are associations, they're neighbors, they're reasonable people. No one is out to decrease property values or put a restaurant on this, which is, again, one of the concerns that was brought up to my attention. So I think there is some miscommunication that occurred in the past. With that said, I don't know that continuing to communicate is going to yield a better result than what we have here. So the Paugus Bay Beach Association would recommend, and again, I'm going to put the same thing out there that I did last time. The deed does still need some additional work, but we strongly encourage the council to vote on a transfer tonight and to permit the parties to continue to work outside of the city council, because again, what we're talking about isn't something that directly impacts the city. Okay.
Counselor Littman.
Can you explain to me in particular how transferring the deed is going to result in any additional, if you will, give and take on the part of good neighbors to one another for there to be a change?
Sure. Well, as the primary point, my client's a nonprofit association with limited funds, and they're paying me to be here. And they're going to pay me to be here at every single meeting. And those funds could be better spent making the beach pretty. So again, as a simple fiduciary
All due
response.
respect, I don't think you're answering my question.
Well, but I
I
am.
asked you a direct question, you didn't answer it. I'd ask that you answer it, please.
Sure. Again, I think the city, with regard to this, doesn't need to be involved after it transfers. These are situations where the different owners can meet and resolve their differences to the extent that it's possible to do so.
What you're saying, and it's your testimony, but what you're saying is there's no more differences that can be resolved, so city please transfer it. And that there could be a change that would occur after that. I'm not, all due respect, again, I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Which is fair, Council Littman, and I'll see if I can clarify. I think what it comes down to is we are having discussions about the contours of what's going to occur several years down the road. And those are things which I don't think there is a clear and definitive answer for. What I know is that my clients have no intention in the next 3 years to do anything. They want to improve the beach. They want to put some new sand down. They want to make sure the drainage issue is fixed. Whether or not there's funds for anything else is not something I can tell you. That's going to depend on what occurs. But with regard to whether or not the city should hold on to it again, while this may not be important to you all, and I don't mean that in a flip manner, but it is important to my clients to say, are we continuing to pay to sit at a city council meeting and go through the same things over and over again? Or can we do this offline? And again, no one's access to this beach is changing. No one is being told they can't go to the beach. No one is being asked to contribute money right now other than the members of the association. So it's not as though there is some harm that occurs by the transfer. And what's the value in the city continuing to hold it? It's not city. It's not a city beach. It's a beach to which certain members have access. None of that changes. And we're really talking about what's going to happen in the future, which is again, something that can occur outside of the city council.
One follow-up question, and I'll stop on my questioning. So one of the concerns that was brought up by the party that you're not representing is that there could be liens or other things placed on their property for not paying dues. Is that correct or not?
Mr. Littman, the Paugus Bay Beach Association has no legal authority to lien anyone's property. It doesn't. So with regard to paying dues, there is some straightforward case law with regard to a joint easement, the dominant and serving estates using them, and both parties contributing. But again, that's a lawsuit, and I don't think anyone wants that. So the fact of the matter is, while I have no idea what the dues are, we're talking about dues on a beach, so they're not that much. And if someone doesn't want to pay, sure. There may at some point be a situation where the association looks and says, well, you're using the beach, you're using whatever is there, you need to contribute to its upkeep. That's it. I mean, that's the risk that is run.
I'll save my discussion with the council. Thank you.
Councilor Cheney.
I'm at a bit of a loss, with the exception of what I suspect are significant legal fees. What harm is 30 days? I mean, we've been several years owning the darn thing, and now all of a sudden there's this rush. I want you to have it. I want you to have the beach.
Yep.
I just don't understand why you can't take an extra 30 days to try and iron out some of the things that are left, one. And two, I don't want the city to rush into transferring it without making sure the deed sets forth the requirements that we've agreed to with you and the other party. So like I said, I don't understand, again, other than what I suspect are significant fees, what harm there is in 30 days.
Well, again, it's not a matter of there being harm beyond the attorney's fees and the fact that this process has now continued for years. And as I noted, there have been 12 meetings between these two groups of people. And we're still in this situation. So it's not a matter of people not working in good faith. I think my clients are working in good faith. They have listened to the requests made, and they are accommodating where it's possible, but they can't agree to things that are 3, 5, 6 years down the road without having a full meeting of the members, without having an opportunity for the members to go through the beach process and what they want to see happen and the improvements they want to make. And again, there is no significant harm other than the costs that keep getting incurred by everyone with regard to this. And again, my client's a nonprofit. You know, they have limited funds.
Thank you.
I'll defer to when we have discussion.
Thank you. Counselor Susie.
Yes. Mr. Wood or Attorney Wood, thank you very much, but I have a couple of questions. Number one, if we did go ahead and transfer the deed this evening, that takes away all the, what do I want to say? Takes away a lot of the drive that the other parties or even your party has to even negotiate anything further. Because it'd be, well, we won, we have the deed, let's move on. That's it. I realize the only profit section of this situation are the attorneys. And that's normal in every situation like this. But I'd like to know what are the differences that are still a roadblock to reaching some agreement. I know that, you know, you mentioned a few of them in your letter and everything else, but I'd like to see what are those differences. And
Well, I think there's, as an initial point, and let's come back for a moment. With regard to the differences that exist there, I think there is a difference between, you know, absolutely restricting buildings on the property versus a shed to store lawn equipment, or the exploration of a bathhouse at some point in the future, and whether or not there's going to be trash in a bathroom for when people use the bathroom, and then how that would get resolved. So again, these aren't things that have anything to do with the actual deed itself or the restrictions that have been put into the deed, the proposed deed by the city. These are more situations where if you're all part of the association, then everyone has an opportunity to speak and to talk about how they want to manage this beach going forward and the manner in which to do so. And again, you know, if the city doesn't want to transfer it today, fine, we'll continue talking. And we'll have 13 and 14 and 15 meetings, and maybe there will be movement, maybe there won't. The position is functionally that some people have very strong opinions about what they want to see happen, and other people have other opinions. But regardless, any development is going to go through a city process, so there will be additional points where the city can get involved. And when I say development, I don't mean, you know, full on houses or anything. I mean, if they're putting a structure on the land, if they're going to bring sewer to it or whatever else, they're going to need municipal approval. So there's going to be another checkpoint where, you know, the abutters or the people on Bobby's Way who have an interest can get involved and can talk to the city about how they want things to occur. So, but talking about whether or not there can be trash in a hypothetical bathroom 5 years down the road is beyond what this council should be talking about. It's just, you know, again, if you want to restrict the deed, you are more than welcome to do so. But, you know, the differences that exist, I don't think are at the point where it requires you all to spend an inordinate amount of time to continue talking about this, because this is an association set up for people with beach rights. It's got bylaws. It has a mechanism by which the people who have these beach rights can then talk to their neighbors and talk about what they want to see happen. And it's got a mechanism by which voting occurs so that, again, the rights of everyone are protected. So, I mean, again, that I understand that 30 days doesn't seem like a lot, especially given how long you all have owned it. And the primary objection to that is, again, my clients are spending money and going around and around on the same basis.
Any further questions for Attorney Wood? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
I won't call on you. You got to step right up and make your statement. Come on up.
Hi, Sean Cox from Hillcroft Road. So I'll spare you the history. I had it all here and have crossed half of it out. But on June 22nd, we met with the mayor and the city manager in City Hall with some representatives from Hillcroft, Harglen, Bobby's Way, and Birch Haven. And we discussed all this. Nothing much came of it. And we were told by the mayor and the city manager that we would all have to go back and talk it through and work it out and come back with, this is what I wrote down, an inclusive, organized association that represented the majority. That was on the 22nd. So that's what we did. We had some specific street representatives who volunteered essentially, and this is pretty much was 2 from each street. And they talked about the 12 meetings that was just referenced before through July and August. A lot went on, a lot of discussions, a lot of disagreement. And then we came back here 2 weeks ago and brought it all to you, and it was tabled. So you told us then, go back, maybe 12 meetings should be 24 meetings, and you got a month to work it out. And so that's what we did. So the lawyers got more involved. The representatives ground away. There was more discussion. Certainly now you've heard about some agreements, certainly solid progress. And that's, so here we are. So we feel, and I'm on Hillcroft, and so I'm in the Paugus Bay Beach Association, we feel that we've been inclusive. We've invited people to come and join. We feel we've been honest. We feel we've been representative. We feel we've been proactive. So we feel good on that point. And by inviting more people to join, then that's how they'll have a voice. That's how they can represent their fears. That's what I'm hearing in terms of what may or may not come of the beach. Secondly, we do have a majority, and I know that word was used 2 weeks ago, kind of in a scared way, but we do, and that was just mentioned again by Mr. Wood. Of the 52 households, we have a majority number that are interested in the Paugus Bay Beach Association. And we'd like to have more. Let's get all 52. That would be fabulous. That would be a better representation of what can happen, a better way to take good care of the beach, a better way to express the needs in an agreeable way. And then, like I said, I think we've done that in good faith. I think we've been honest. We've given up some of our kind of earlier thoughts. There's historically, and I really don't want to go there, but historically, some things were said that maybe were a concern. So I hope we don't go down the road for 30 more days, because I can see that being 60 more days if there's no agreement. And not to be facetious, but the city's had it since 1994. Had it a long time. Now there's action, right? And you told us that the decision we made tonight, and I hope you make a decision tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Philpott. I'm representing Brenda Garno. She started this process to form an association. And I just want to bring a perspective. It seems to me that the city is getting involved in trying to broker this thing, or indirectly or by default, and there's no need for it. Consideration has to be given to the property owners within this development, or that are trying to sell their property now. So they have it on the market. We have a community beach, but the city holds title to it. It's a chilling effect. There's been an association formed. People have deeded rights to the beach. Those deeded rights cannot be taken away. And the prospect of the association somehow charging when they've gone ahead voluntarily and say they form amenities, then charging people that are easement holders that do not want to participate, that's going to go nowhere in court. Bruce, you said, what's wrong with give it another 30 days? Well, what happens if they can't negotiate anymore and they come back here and the can's still being kicked down the road? Then what are you going to do? I don't think the city wants to own this property anymore. I don't know why they would. I understand that you want to try to make everyone happy, but sometimes you can't do that. You have a recommendation from the city manager, as I see it on the agenda, to deed it to Paugus Association, nonprofit. And a majority of the interest holder, easement holders are willing to participate in that association. It seems to me that ought to be the end of the subject. You shouldn't be in a
Attorney.
position where you're brokering everything.
Attorney, I'm going to respectfully disagree, and probably now is not the appropriate time, but I think we do have an interest in that these are elected members of a council. They have constituents.
Understood.
Hold on. So this idea, you may not think we have standing to be involved in brokering a deal, but I would suggest that Councilor Cheney's commitment to his constituents probably motivates him to stay involved and try and keep as many people satisfied with a compromise as he can. I think that's fulfilling his obligations, his sense of obligation. So I hear what you're saying, but I would just say, I respectfully disagree.
I'm not saying that the council doesn't have the right to broker a situation or have an interest. That's not what I said.
I hear you. Why don't we continue on? And I don't think this should be a debate. This isn't about me and my opinion. This is about the folks
Not
sitting here.
attempting to debate, just putting forth the proposition that at some point in time, the can needs to be.
I appreciate that. And I
stop
heard you
kicking the
the
can.
first time, and I appreciate your opinion on that. Thank you. So we got you.
Good evening,
Good evening.
and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. This has been obviously a difficult situation, and you've all invested a lot of time and energy, as well as many of us, and I want to thank you for that. So my name is Allison.
Can you pause? Oh, thank you. I wanted to get your name.
My name is Allison Gianatelli, and I live on Hillcroft Road, 192 Hillcroft. And as a result, as Sean had said, as a result of the city's request, we have formed an inclusive beach committee, which is now the Paugus Bay Beach Association. I'm one of 7 representatives that are now on the board of directors for the Paugus Bay Beach Association. We offered the opportunity for there to be 2 Bobby's Way board of directors on that association. They have 1, they opted for 1. And we were disappointed. We highly recommended that they have 2. We want inclusivity. We want all of the property owners involved. We want to hear from everyone. We want to negotiate. We want to be respectful. I just want to take a minute outside of my notes to also, the attorney that spoke first, I apologize for not knowing him by name. He represented Bobby's Way. And he offered the fact that there have been some negotiations that have moved forward. There's been a little bit of movement. That was all our movement. We agreed to say, okay, we will do 3 years without certain things. We will logically, let's form an association. Let's all build some trust. Let's all move very slowly. Let's start by taking care of the beach we all love and enjoy. Let's stop spending money. My count is there are 4 attorneys invested at this point in time. Let's spend that money on the beach. Let's get to know one another and build trust with one another. That's all we've been trying to do. And I can honestly say we have offered compromise. So far, I can't say there's anything that has been offered to us as a compromise. Compromise needs to work both ways. So per your request, the committee has responded with genuine intent to respectfully hear the concerns of all parties. We've worked together. We've met for several months, repeatedly negotiating in good faith. We've talked about trash. We've talked about day docks. We've talked about all of these items, and we've talked about them several times. And we've made agreements. We made one agreement as a committee where they said, if we bring our items to you, can we negotiate them? And then we will make agreement and we won't then off. They did try at one point in time to purchase the beach without us. They said, we won't do that. And so we did sit down and we went through that list of items and we agreed to several. We did not agree to all. Some of the items that they want are impact our deeded rights to the beach for boating, for recreation. Those are the things we are not willing to compromise on. Why would anyone give up their deeded rights to such a beautiful area? It does not make financial sense for us to give some of the things that they're asking for. The things that are reasonable neighborhood concerns, respect for abutters, respect for each other, we've been more than agreeable. We have offered hours of our time to negotiate the same concerns over and over again. We have worked with the intention of one inclusive group of 51, with all of us with rights to the beach and to be able to purchase this beach as an association from the city of Laconia. We've repeatedly addressed some concerns in which we cannot come to an agreement. This is democracy. The best way to influence outcome is to respectfully engage in the association, investing your time and energy, create alignments, and create compromise. As you know, there's a clear distinction between not being heard and not agreeing. All parties are not getting all of their requests. That is the result of a democracy. That is exactly what we've engaged in, and we've been in total good faith. If you ask us to keep doing it, we will. But last time we were here, you told us if we did these things, a decision would be made tonight. We are the ones who have offered compromise. The agreements that you've heard tonight from the first attorney were our agreements. There are no other agreements being offered to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else looking to speak? Come forward.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your time. So I am Mike Bravo, 107 Harglen Lane. I just want to really briefly just go over the numbers. So as you heard, we do have 31 people in firm support of the Paugus Bay Beach Association. And I just wanted to let you know that from Hillcroft Road, of the 20 property owners, 75% of them, are in favor of the Paugus Beach Association. From my road where I live, 14 of 21, which is 67%. From Hilliard Road, we have both parties. There are only 2 households there, and both parties are in full support of the Paugus Bay Beach Association. And on Bobby's Way, there's 1 of 8 property owners on, in support of the Paugus Bay Beach Association. In addition to that, we do have a board of directors set up, and we have 2 property owners on Hillcroft, 2 property owners on Harglen, 1 on Hilliard, because there's just a smaller number of households there. And we actually have 1 property owner on Bobby's Way who is a board member. So I think we have the representation we need. And I think, as you've heard, we've negotiated, we've discussed, we've talked in good faith. Since approximately a year ago, Bobby's Way was being represented at all the meetings that were happening. And at the time, I think they were mostly on Zoom. I wasn't heavily involved then. I got involved right after, I got involved June 22nd when there was a city hall meeting here. And I happened to be up here and I attended the meeting. And I just thought, this is a great way to get involved with my community and just, try to make this place a better place so that we can all, 51 property owners in this area, have fun and enjoy the asset that is there. So I've been involved, extensively since the end of June, and I don't mind going further if it's necessary, but I really think that it, could be decided tonight. The other thing is, there was a discussion about brokering a deal. I don't know if anybody on the board of council, city council would, help us broker that deal, but we've compromised. And like Allison said, we're the ones who have been asked to provide to their requests, respond to their requests, and we've done that. We've had 0 requests. And, therefore, it's sort of all give and no take. So anyway, that's what I have to say.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
My name is, thank you. My name is Gene Hyder from 272 Hilliard Road. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and all council members. I'm in favor of the Paugus Bay Beach Association. This does not need to be complicated. We have property owners with deeded rights to use the common beach, as you've heard plenty of times now. It's referred to as a community beach. On our own deeds, our deeds say community beach. Separate from the beach property, a deeded access and to and from the beach, also established on our individual deeds. Beyond that, the community or association should govern the beach property with reasonable rules and regulations. With all owners voting independently, that's how governing bodies work, such as it is in this room. You may not always get your way. Look at how this country is divided right now. Look at the present day wars of different ideas and opinions going on around the world. The board of directors of the PBBA have assembled many times and listened to the issues of many people, such as houses with a line of sight to the beach. So we are considering being considerate, and we're putting ourselves in their shoes. How would we feel? The same thing with traveling over private properties to get to and from the beach. We are trying to be considerate in that sense. There is also, I got ahead of myself, because there is no control over the beach right now. There's people that just come and go without deeds and they think it's a public beach. So there's obviously trash left. Nobody's controlling this thing. And that's what we're asking for is we want to be able to just improve it, clean it up, put up a sign, private beach, with the signage and maintenance of the property, like other beaches. That should help improve. The same thing with the abutters. We want to be able to be considerate and respectful with the abutters as they would be with us. If I was living next to a private beach, I would want the same. I don't know what the future holds with people buying and selling deeded beach properties, but I'm sure the best way to govern the beach is with every individual deeded owner to become an active and a voting member. We seem to be well on our way with a good majority of the owners wanting a nicely maintained private community beach. For me, maybe a place to fish too. That hasn't come up yet. I'm not sure that's going to fly. Thank you all for your time.
Hello.
My name is Patty Taylor and I live at 106 Hillcroft Road. And I am a current member of the Paugus Bay Beach Association. And I'm asking you, the city of Laconia, to transfer this beach known as the Community Beach, to the Paugus Bay Beach Association. I would like to just share a little bit of my history and track record with this community beach. Approximately 22 years ago, Mayor Matt Leahy and the city manager approached me to transfer the beach to the Pickle Cove Association for $1. At that time, I was the president of the association and worked closely with the DES to apply for grant funding to help eradicate the milfoil that was choking our cove. In addition to the milfoil issue, I was heavily involved in taking care of our community beach, even though the city of Laconia owned it. Our association saw the potential in this beautiful parcel of land that we all had deeded rights to and wanted to improve it. I collaborated with the city manager and the mayor, and we agreed that our association could beautify the beach. With the city's permission and a permit granted by the state, we collected personal funds from the association, and in 2006, we purchased new sand for the beach. We hired a reputable contractor who drove down Birch Haven Road, which we would like to see again. I know that they're against that, but we'd like to see that again. And he came down and maintained the beach for us by providing sand and labor to improve it. Ultimately, it was all for the good of the community and the experience for all to enjoy. Unfortunately, the sand did not last long. With one good rainstorm, and it washed away and left a big gully behind. I continued to work with the city, and the city provided the second load of sand to fix the gaping hole left from the storm. The reason I mention this background is to provide a level of credibility with my actions in the past. I have always had the best interests for all 51 homes that have deeded beach rights to our community beach. I have spent countless hours over 30 years trying to improve our community beach. The members of the Paugus Bay Beach Association come from the same place. They want what is best for all residents and have a proven track record of transparency, collaboration, and willingness to work together for the good of the community. We all believe our community beach should be a place for all deeded homes to enjoy with their families and guests. Excuse me, the way it was intended by St. Sevier when he deeded it to the lots on Hillcroft, Harglen, a few homes on Hilliard, and subsequently Bobby's Way. I will continue to be part of the PBBA, an association that treats all homeowners with respect, an association that communicates with full transparency and with an open mind, including listening to the many concerns of Bobby's Way and the requests by our abutters on Birch Haven Road. We continue to advocate that all deeded beach right homeowners join the PBA and have a voice. The PBBA believes that all members should have a voice in how we decide the future improvements on the beach, and that the majority vote will prevail. Right now, we have a minority group of people that are blocking this sale because they want their requests and agenda to win. I urge Mayor Hosmer and former city manager Scott Myers and the new city manager Kirk Beatty, as well as the city councils, to deed this property over to the PBBA. For those of you that are opposed to the PBA managing the beach, I urge you to become members. Keep an open mind and get involved with your voice and your actions. If you truly want to beautify our community beach, let's do it collectively as one community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Tom O'Brien. I'm a resident of 58 Hillcroft Road. We purchased a wonderful home in July of 2020, and at which time I started doing some research and digging a little bit. I have a real estate background, mortgage finance for the last 25 years, and seen a lot of associations be formed and operating efficiently. I started digging deeper and deeper and asking some residents and meeting some friends around the cove and so forth to try to find out, you know, what's going on, what's the backstory of the beach and what happened, right? And so as I was doing that, the more I started digging into it, saying, well, wait a minute, you know, now the town owns it, and well, who's paying taxes on it? Oh, the residents are paying the taxes on the beach, and well, what's going on here? So I may have shook some trees or started some of this and got things in motion, but it's been, some of you were saying, oh, it's been about a year. It's been probably much longer than that too, that I know of from the time we started all this. But, you know, we were told to form an association, and this is how we can transfer the beach, and the city was receptive to doing so. So we did that. And it's a little confusing for me because seeing so many associations be developed, we're in a way, we're putting the cart ahead of the horse here. We're talking about things that may or may not transpire 12, 24, 36, 48 months down the road. The voting members is what changes associations, right? Ideas that are set forth. And I feel that there may have been a lot of bad blood possibly between, like, you look at it and say, guys, we're all neighbors here. Why are we, we have their attorney and we have an attorney, and what are we doing? Aren't we forming one? Maybe I'm confused here, but I'm thinking we're forming just a one unit, right? With an association. So we're all going to come up with great ideas, maybe some not so great, but then the voting members are going to say yay or nay. That's how it works. Every association I've ever seen form, that's the way it works. So if there was some bad blood, possibly, from other residents years ago, and whatever happened years ago, that was then. And today is today, and what happens tomorrow, and we have control to do that. The city wants to transfer it. We all respectively want the right thing for the beach, to improve upon it, to enjoy evenings, meeting our neighbors and kind of joining forces, and right? So those ideas will continue to come 6 months from now or 6 years from now. I guess part of me doesn't really understand where the holdup is. Why, what are we waiting to renegotiate? I feel that, our representation, or the representation of some of the speakers that we just heard, really hit the nail on the head. I mean, Sean explained to you that when we came, you wanted us to show some direction, and we've done that. And Allison talking about good faith, that this is what we will do, to negotiate and work collectively as one. Not to,
Sir,
you've got
less than a minute to go.
Okay. So again, I'm here to suggest that you transfer the ownership to the adults, the owners, the rightful owners of the beach. And as we proceed forward with the association, we will vote accordingly on any changes that may or may not occur down the road. So, thank you for your time.
Anybody else? Seeing none. Move on to item number 20, which is our city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your packet is the financial and operational trends for the month. As you can see, under the new construction, we're doing very well, over $31 million this year. We talked about how good it was last year at the 28, and we're moving ahead, which is excellent. The fire, public assistance, police calls are all relatively normal. Our tax collection is in a good spot. Motor vehicle registration is good. I'm not going to go over all of the overtime, but there is a spreadsheet in there which shows all the overtime for the month and year to date. No pending grievances at this point, at least it's to my level, and all the other numbers are there with the general fund, both revenue and expenses. You'll notice on the fire and EMS report, the billing numbers are up from this point last year of almost 200 runs, which is equating to almost $11,000 in billable amounts. So definitely seeing some uptick there.
Where is that, Kirk?
The last 2 pages for the fire and EMS. If you look at last year to this point in this year, this year, compare those 2 graphs, you'll see that it's up again, almost 200 billable runs. I have 2 appointments to.
Question?
Oh, yeah.
So the impact fees, one thing I want to make sure is with the transition between yourself and the manager that the time limitation on those are properly recorded and being monitored so that we don't have to return them.
Yep. Can do that.
Kurt, maybe I'm missing something, but is the CIP in here where we are?
No, the only thing that's in here for CIP, correct, Glenn, there's nothing in here other than the non-capital reserve stuff. So no, there's nothing specific in this.
No, I was just curious where we are with that.
With where we are with there's, I have nothing in here specifically related to CIP, but
Okay, all right.
If I could, I think he's asking about the table that we ordinarily
Yes,
get.
that's, thank you,
That
Counselor.
has the inflation.
that's a bit at the next.
Next-
Oh, all
That'll be at
right.
the
I'm
next.
sorry.
Yep,
I'm
no,
sorry.
that'll be at the next month's,
Okay.
our next meeting
Great.
this month.
Yep.
If there's no other questions on that document, I've got, I made an appointment to the planning board. I have two appointments that actually go to the planning board. One of them was vacant by my moving to this position, and that's Amy Levisik, planning board director, will be filling that spot. The only other thing I have, and I know we've talked about it before in this meeting, we're gonna talk about it later in the meeting.
Hold on one second.
Yep,
You said planning director?
planning board. Parks and Rec director.
Parks and Rec Director will be moved.
We'll be going to planning board.
I guess in term, you had a HR appointment to make, but you have nothing against Amy, but you bring to the table as the fire chief a lot different perspective than the parks. I'm just concerned we're losing something there.
Yeah, and that was actually discussed at planning board before I left, just the way the positions fell and logistically, I wasn't able to do that. That was my first intent. I wasn't able to work out that way.
Is it possible to consider it as a temporary appointment until the new fire chief is up and running, and that we could get someone who has that level of expertise on codes and different safety concerns? Because I just feel like we're losing something there in a big way, and nothing against Amy.
Yeah, I don't believe I will be able to put him into that position. Just for the way it reads of how the position has to be filled. I certainly be glad to go back and relook at that, but I don't believe I'll be able to.
Okay.
And the last thing I had on there was just the, we've been able to fill some of the positions and you guys have talked about it, but I just wanted to make sure I bring it up because I've been talking with our city clerk about this. There are still a few different wards that need certain positions for the voting. And that is on we've got it on the website, we have it in the links and it's posted all over City Hall. So if you know people looking, working with her, trying to fill some of those moderator and ward clerk selectman positions.
Okay. You know, that's a real concern going forward. Obviously, we've known this for quite some time before, even pre-COVID. I mean, we have it's an aging demographic, whereas hasn't it been traditionally as who's manning our polls? It's demanding a lot of hours. There's some oversight now. It's a tough job. You know, putting a plan in place to make sure that we're well-staffed so people can have confidence that when they go there, they move in and out in a timely fashion is important, but I also think to ensure that their vote is definitely being counted, critically important to maintain confidence in our election process. When we compensate people who work there, can you give me some idea of how we compensate people and whether that needs to be addressed? And you want to get back to me on that? Then you can. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But
Right now, there's a flat fee that the elected officials get paid. So the moderator, the ward clerk, supervisor of the checklist, and the selectmen get a flat fee of $150 for the day.
how many hours they working that day?
15 to 17 hours a day
Mhm.
in that day. Because the polls are open from 7 to 7, plus they're there for setup ahead of time, all the counting and breakdown at the end of the night and all the reporting. So it's an extremely long day.
How much training is required leading up to that day as well?
There's preparation ahead of time, depending on each position is different with different responsibilities.
Range of hours needed to train to get people ready to go? I guess
15 to 20 hours, maybe.
15 to 20.
Maybe.
Easy.
Plus another 15-hour day. It's $150. I mean, obviously,
You're not compensated for the training period either.
yeah, I mean, at some point here, and you could say we don't have to compensate for the training period, but maybe we should be revisiting compensation for the day, the election day.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, just something maybe we should consider as we move through this election and get into 2023.
Yeah. So our biggest needs is in wards 4 and 5. So something that I've asked our police department to help out with is the flashing message boards that are in the city to try and get the word out that way as well to maybe people that don't read the links or come into City Hall as often, just to try and spread the word.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think that's a great idea.
Is this something for further discussions
It
down
is.
the road? Okay.
It most certainly is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
I have a comment, but probably not tonight.
I mean, these folks seems to me to be woefully underpaid for what's required of them. And if we want to, recruit people and retain people, looking at compensation may be something we should be addressing. So,
Absolutely.
okay.
That's all I have. Nope, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions for this evening on what he's presented?
Just a comment, and I'm sorry that it probably should have been under council comments, but the capital improvement program met last Thursday night, and I will compliment the deputy fire chief, gave an excellent presentation.
Good. It's nice to hear.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Haynes. Moving on to item number 21, which is new business. The temporary traffic under 21A is temporary traffic order 2022-13 New Hampshire Pumpkin Festival. 2022 New Hampshire Pumpkin Festival is scheduled for October 29, 2022. Temporary traffic order 2022-13 is attached to the TTO has been reviewed by the police department, the fire department, the public works department. Once the traffic order is approved, Lakes Region Chamber plans to deliver a copy of it along with a map of the festival to all downtown businesses to keep them informed of plans for October 29th. I certainly hope that the city takes a proactive approach in that along with the chamber. I think communication is critically important to the success of these events. Special Events Review Committee has approved the Pumpkin Festival's application at their October 5th meeting. Right now, I'd like a motion to move to approve temporary traffic order 2022-13.
Could I just interrupt? There was a correction to the staff report. The Special Events Committee was not able to meet to do that, but I did meet with the police and Public Works. There's no issues with that, and we're fine with this moving forward as is.
Thank you. I'll be looking for a motion right now to approve temporary traffic order 2022-13 for the 2022 New Hampshire Public Festival as presented. So made by Councilor Haynes, second by Councilor Phelps. Any further discussion? I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 21B, sale of lot number 18, the Lakes Business Park. The Lakes Business Park Commission approved the sale of lot number 18 in the Lakes Business Park at its meeting on September 28, 2022, contingent upon the approval of the Guilford Board of Selectmen and the Laconia City Council. The offer for lot number 18 was received from Richard and Melissa Hill, DBA R&K Machine, the amount of $140,000. The use of the lot would be consistent with the Lakes Business Park covenants. The purchase and sale agreement is attached. Right now, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the vote of the Lakes Business Park Commission for the sale of lot number 18 in the Lakes Business Park in the amount of $140,000 and to authorize the city manager to sign the required documents in connection with the sale. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Littman. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Moving on to item number 21C, sale of lot number 5 in the Lakes Region Business Park. The Lakes Business Park Commission approved the sale of lot number 5 in the Lakes Business Park at its meeting on September 28th. Contingent upon the approval of the Guilford Board of Selectmen and the Laconia City Council, the offer for lot number 5 was received from Kevin Morissette in the amount of $50,000. The use of the lot would be consistent with the Lakes Business Park covenants. Purchase and sale agreement is attached. So we'll be looking for a motion to approve the vote of the Lakes Business Park Commission for the sale of lot number 5 in the Lakes Business Park in the amount of $50,000 and to authorize the city manager to sign the required documents in connection with the sale. So made by Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to item number 21D. Appointments for moderator and selectman vacancies per Laconia City Charter, section 2.05. All vacancies in the office of moderator, ward clerk, or selectman shall be filled by the city council. Pro tem appointments will be valid until all contests are settled from the November 8th, 2022 election. The regular appointments will be valid until the end of December 2023 after the next city election in November 2023. The council is requested to consider the following appointments. Gary Dion for moderator pro tem in Ward 1, Greg Page for moderator pro tem in Ward 5, Catherine Tokars for moderator in Ward 6, Laura Ringer for selectman for Ward 6. This report was submitted by Kitty Gargano, the city clerk. Right now, I'll be looking for a motion to appoint Gary Dion for moderator pro tem for Ward 1 and Greg Page for moderator pro tem for Ward 5, valid until all contests are settled for the November 8th, 2022 election. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion?
Is there, the second part of that is going to be taken up secondly?
I see there's 2 separate motions on my
Okay.
document. Yes.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Secondly, looking for a motion to move to appoint Catherine Tokars for moderator for Ward 6 and Laura Ringer for selectman for Ward 6 with a term expiring at the end of December 2023. Still made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Moving on to item number 21E, which is a first reading of resolution 2022-13 relative to accepting grant funding from the Northern Borders Regional Commission State Economic and Infrastructure Development Grant Program and authorizing the city manager to sign all MBRC investment documents that bind the applicant. Just to cover this briefly, on April 11th, 2022, the city council moved to support submitting a Northern Borders Regional Commission State Economic and Infrastructure letter of interest for a 1,000-foot multi-use trail on Elm Street. This project was ultimately selected to receive a $225,000 grant through MBRC SEID grant program. The Northern Borders Regional Commission requires a resolution by the applicant's legal authority authorizing the city manager to sign all NBRC investment documents that bind the city as the grant applicant. Under fiscal impact, the SEID grant provides 50% funding, $225,000, and requires a 50% match, $225,000. Funding sources for the match are being pursued, including a USDA Community Facilities Grant and funding from the WOW Trip. Recommendation is that the city manager recommends approving this resolution, accepting grant funding and authorizing the city manager to sign all NBRC investment documents that bind the city to the terms and conditions of the grant. Would you like to, were you, I'm sorry, I forget, were you in on the meeting that we had about a month ago?
Yes, I was. Yep.
Plan of what's going on in Lakeport. So if you'd like to comment, please do.
Yeah, no, I mean, the grant is, as you said, is looking to start taking over that where Union Ave bends onto Elm Street, improving that area, sort of tying in with the Wild Trail, multi-use, seating, bike lanes, nice improvement, obviously a big dollar item. And this is a piece of the long-term plan. As you said, there's still funding needs to do the match, which 225,000 is obviously a lot of money. We are looking at a couple different ways. Working with the Wild Trail personnel, looking at some potential money through the county, public-private partnerships. Then there's obviously there's a few other options that we can look at without putting the entire financial ticket onto the city. So we are working on that now. I've had some conversations today with some private entities. And so my plan would be to come back as we're doing the public hearing to hopefully have this all answered. So when you actually go to make the vote, we have that answer where that money is going to be coming from. So we're not accepting something and then not knowing where it's coming from afterwards.
Takes the fun out of it.
We don't want to say no to the grant after we say yes. So
Right, sure. But this is certainly an exciting opportunity for the Lakeport area. And I don't know if you've all had an opportunity to see some of the plans that have been proposed in regards to that intersection to upgrade sort of a lot of the infrastructure around there to make it more user-friendly and also make it conducive for further development by a couple of private entities down there that want to continue doing some work.
Councilor Susie is raising his hand.
Yes, Counselor Susie.
Kirk, I have one question. Is there a time limit on having the money have to be raised to meet the 50%?
that we're not sure of. I'd have to look at it specifically. I was serious when I said my goal is for that match would be to have something at least relatively solid by the time it goes to public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Right now, I'll be looking for a motion to move the waive the reading of this resolution in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes. 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Looking for a second motion to move a first reading of resolution 2022-13, a resolution authorizing acceptance of grant funding and authorizing the city manager to sign all MBRC investment documents that bind the city to the terms and conditions of the grant.
So a
Please.
point of order, just based on constituent reach out on this particular agenda item. What we're approving tonight is to move this to a public hearing. This isn't a decision point. I just want to make that clear for the record.
Thank you, Counselor Littman. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure.
So made by Counselor Littman, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Thank you.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes. 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Finally, I'd like to move to schedule a public hearing on October 24th, 2022 during the regular city council meeting to gather input prior to adoptions. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Yes. I'd like to see if there's any way that the Lakeport TIF can be involved in some of that funding.
Certainly looking at the Lakeport TIF is one of the ways, we know that there's not a lot in there right now but there are some options that we can use to use that TIF over longer periods of time to help with that. So that is one of the funding sources we're looking at.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions?
Just picking up on Counselor Felch's, I think, line, and for the manager, if we could sort of forecast what, like we did when we approached the Weirs, we did a forecast, and when we did the Colonial Theater, we did a forecast of the TIF.
Yep, we can have that for you.
I think that's something I know City Manager Myers had been working on subsequent to our meeting with a couple of groups in the Lakeport area to talk about what does it look like going forward and what can we count on? What can we look at for growth?
And a lot of, just as a point of that, a lot of the growth that's going on right now, as you know, that it had the tax exemption. So we are looking at least 5 years out before some of that property comes into being able to even be used. But so it's not going to be immediate that we have that availability to us. But it will be coming online at some point.
Right. Just a clarification, not a tax exemption, it's the special authority that allows
79E.
79E.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
That's 5 votes in the affirmative and that motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 22 under unfinished business. Request to accept 7 private roads under the Accept As Is program. All the butters on the 7 roads listed below have agreed to provide easements to the city under the Accept As Is program. The city has been plowing these roads for an extended period of time. These roads are Janes Ave, Thompson Ave, Allen Ave, Kingsley Ave, Lucerne Ave, Hillcrest Drive, Bayside Court. These are all roads that the city council has had an opportunity to visit over the course of the summer and walk those roads, take a look at them. Roads have been surveyed to establish the proposed rights of way for the 7 roads. Public Works and the city attorney have prepared the necessary easements for the property owners and their mortgage companies. If any, the documents will be sent to the property owners during the weeks of October 17th and 24th. Mortgage company, if there is a mortgage, also must sign the easement document. This could delay completing the easement process depending on the mortgage company's requirements and procedures. City Council viewed these 7 roads on August 30th, 2022. Public Works recommends the City Council accept the 7 roads as is, contingent upon the receipt and filing in the Belknap County Registry of Deeds of all easements necessary to accept these private roads as public under the Accept As Is program. The city already plows these streets. Public Works Department has treated these roads as if they were emergency lanes. Once the roads are accepted as is, the roads will be included in the city's pavement management program. City Council typically appropriates 1.25 million for road improvement program. Any improvements to these streets would be funded under said program. The annual operation and maintenance costs are similar to Public Works costs for maintaining the road under the emergency lane program. Recommendation is that the City Council accept the 7 roads. A report was submitted by Director of Public Works, Wes Anderson. So right now, I'll be looking. Yeah.
Trying to get there.
Right now, I'll be looking for a motion to move the City Council to accept Janes, Thompson, Allen Ave, Kingsley Ave, Lucerne Ave, Hillcrest Drive, and Bayside Court, as is contingent upon receipt and filing in Belknap County Registry of Deeds of all easements necessary to make these private roads public. Accepting these roads as is will result in improved accessibility for fire, emergency, and police services. So made by Councilor Cheney.
Sure.
Seconded by Councilor Felch. Is there any further discussion on the motion that's before the council? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to item number 22B.
We have some fans.
Fans, yeah. Second reading of resolution 2022-12 to authorize acceptance of an additional $122,811.80 in New Hampshire Department of Safety, Office of Highway Safety grants. Police Department had previously applied for the highway safety funds in the form of enforcement details. These funds were previously approved in the fiscal year 23 budget for anticipated funds. Since the approval of the 23 budget, the police department applied for additional funds through the New Hampshire Department of Safety, Office of Highway Safety. The police department has applied for additional speed monitoring enforcement equipment through the New Hampshire Department of Safety, Office of Highway Safety, with a $75,000 25% matching grant. The Laconia Police Department is responsible for the 25% match on this equipment. Funding for the 25% match on the part of the city has already been approved under 2023 ARPA funds allocation under the line of quote, police radar equipment. The total allocation from the state of New Hampshire will be $39,521.81 with a 25% match from the police department of $13,173.94, which has already been allocated to the police department from the 2023 ARPA funds. The Laconia Police Department applied for additional funding for crash analysis and reconstruction equipment to better investigate serious and fatal collisions. This includes the requested equipment as well as training for officers using the specialized equipment. Total allocation from the state of New Hampshire will be $63,289.99 with a soft match from the police department of $13,304.75. The soft match funds will be in the form of traffic enforcement equipment and enforcement recorded outside of the grant-funded enforcement details. I don't want to put you on the spot on your first night on the job here, but do you understand that completely? Do you, Henry, maybe I'll put it on you, Henry, Councilor Lippman. Can you?
I think that in-kind contributions of their time, their effort are recognized as
Okay.
soft costs.
Stuff we've already bought, anything like that can count towards in kind.
All right. The Laconia Police Department also applied for a community outreach and betterment grant through the New Hampshire Department of Safety, Office of Highway Safety. The purpose of the community outreach and betterment grant is to bring the highway safety message via an in-person PowerPoint presentation to the traditionally underserved New Hampshire drivers and vulnerable road users while fostering positive law enforcement public interactions by outreach to refugee New American groups, outreach to low-income neighborhoods, outreach to older drivers, low vision and hearing impaired drivers, outreach to youth drivers, outreach to limited English proficiency groups, outreach to elementary, high schools, driver ed groups. The total allocation from the New Hampshire, from the state of New Hampshire for the COB grant will be $20,000 with a soft match from the police department of $5,000. Soft match funds will be in the form of traffic enforcement equipment and enforcement recorded outside of the grant funded enforcement details. There is no fiscal impact as these are soft match funds through the grant. These soft match funds will be covered by current equipment already in service with the department that is used on a daily basis for enforcement or from funds already allocated to the department for equipment purchases. This report was submitted by Captain Al Grattan of Laconia Police Department and recommends acceptance of the additional $122,811.80 in Department of Safety and Office of Highway Safety grant funds. Right now, there's a series of 3 motions. First one is a motion to waive a reading of the resolution 2022-12 in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Lippman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Right now, I'm looking for a second motion to move a second reading of resolution 2022-12, a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept an additional $122,811.80 in New Hampshire Department of Safety, Office of Highway Safety grant funds. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Lippman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Finally, looking to move to approve resolution 2022-12 as presented. A resolution authorizing the city manager to accept an additional $122,811.80 in New Hampshire Department of Safety, Office of Highway Safety grant. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Felch. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
I believe that brings us to the end of the agenda.
Night all.
Just want to see who's paying attention. 2022, under agenda item 22C. Sale of unique property located at 20 Indian Path, tax map 180. /516/15. I think I'm not going to go through the entire portion of of details here because we're all intimately familiar with it. I will, there is a motion, there is a proposed motion. I will read it and see where it leads us. We're looking for a motion to move to accept the written recommendation of the city manager that tax map lot 180/516/15 has unique characteristics and understand it will be the intent of the city to enter into a negotiated sale of the property with Paugus Bay Beach Association as a single private purchase for $1. We're looking for a motion on that. I could sit here all night.
Was
So
this,
can we?
was this item tabled before?
Yes.
So it has
What, did we table it?
Yes.
All right, so
So
we're
it has
looking
to be
right now,
removed from the table.
prior to the motion, we're looking for a motion to remove it from the table. There a motion to remove it from the table? Seeing none, it remains on the table. Council Cheney, I give you an opportunity to say something if you like. This is,
I would.
I think squarely in your ward, isn't it?
It is. I don't know anybody who's more in favor of seeing this transfer to PBA. Unlike some, I think a little patience, a little more patience may help a lot. The representative for Bobby's Way tonight came in and said they negotiated several things. He thought they'd reached an accommodation on a number of, or on several items. I'd like to see that formalized in some form. I sit here remembering that there were promises made by, and I don't mean to impugn anybody here, but promises were made about a property in Lakeport that later didn't materialize because it wasn't in writing. And I just want to see this in writing before I am willing to sign off. And like I said, nobody's more in favor of seeing these folks. I think they've done everything right. I just want to see it finished with stuff in writing so that a year from now, we're not sitting here going, well, that wasn't what we intended. And if 30 more days can get us there, I feel better about that. Thank you.
I agree with you, Councilor Cheney, in terms of, I too would like to see the Paugus Bay Beach Association eventually be the association that has control of the property, but not with where we are today. I think ultimately, I'm not looking for the city to retain it, nor am I looking for it to be disrupted, but I do think that neighbors should be able to reach an agreement. And, maybe the attorneys are in the way at this point. I don't know. But I would encourage you, I think that there will be a resolution of this, but I think leverage is being applied here in a way that's not comfortable, that we're giving one side or the other. And so I'd like to see, like you, Councilor Cheney, something in writing in terms of what were the points that were agreed to and what I'm not interested in what the points are, but I'd like to see in writing what the points are agreement and what the points of disagreement are, so that we can reasonably assess whether there's been a reasonable discourse here. I can't judge based on the testimony tonight that, each side represents they've acted in good faith, yet there's nothing in front of us in writing with respect to what the points of agreement and disagreement were.
Can I just add, Mr. Mayor? I mean, I would remind everybody, we're selling this property for $1. Somebody on the council a couple of weeks ago said, I'll buy it for $1.
Me.
Two, that was right. Yes, you buy it for $2. So, you know, it's not that we don't want this to go forward. They can't get a much better deal than a buck. I would ask that they have a little patience with us wanting to see it done right. And I have to say, I'm disappointed that, you know, stuff went back and forth between attorneys. The responses brought us to them negotiating this afternoon. I think they should have been negotiating a week ago this afternoon and had it all in writing and say, here we are, we've agreed to all of these things. And please sell PBBA, the property. I'd be voting. My hand to go up so fast your head had spin. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Go right ahead, Counselor Susie.
from earlier discussions, I thought there was a comment made that the deed needed some work before we could act on this. I'd like to see what that is. I mean, when Councilor Cheney wants to see, let's put it all out there. I don't know what it means, what it means, what it is, but.
Maybe Counselor Littman can clarify that. I'm not sure there is.
So I think that Councilor Susie, that the points of what there's agreement of would be incorporated in the deed. If there's no agreement on what the terms are, then we can't finish the deed. So I think, you know, the city unfortunately is in this position, not because we chose to be. We did not want to own the property to begin with. It came to us because, to my understanding, because certain actions weren't taken that needed to be taken. We've held on to the property. We have no interest in holding on to the property. We want there to be transparency in terms of what was on the table, what was agreed to and not agreed to, so that the terms can be incorporated into the document appropriately, so that the rights of the majority and the minority are appropriately documented, and understanding that, the term democracy was used tonight. Yes, there is, but there's also protections in our constitutional democracy for minority rights as well. And so I think the reason we're not moving ahead tonight is because we don't feel comfortable that those have been at least enumerated. And that's why I think it remains tabled.
And I think I'd like to see what the deed's gonna look like. I also wouldn't mind seeing what the association bylaws look like. But that's,
I think we want to be really careful here.
Not for us
I'm not sure we have standing to delve into homeowners association bylaws and make sure they're agreeable with us. I think that's outside the lane here.
Okay.
We own a piece of property. A number of people have an interest in that piece of property, legally have a legal interest in it. It's our desire, as I understand it, to convey this piece of property. I agree, the reason it's taken so long and we haven't rushed to judgment here or rushed to sale is because we have a concern about wanting to build the largest group of people that can come to a compromise and make up the association. I mean, I think that's our goal. Ideally, it'd be great if we had 100% of people willing to agree with each other and become part of this association. It's clearly not going to happen. I do believe, in my mind, as much as we want to protect the rights of everyone's rights here, I'm exhausted with this. I'm tired of it. It seems to me that there's some behavior that at times that is questionable. All of you who have a right to have rights in that property should speak up. But I think at some point here, if you're holding out for the perfect, it's not going to happen, it seems to me. So all of a sudden that becomes the enemy of a solid compromise where everybody can live in peaceful enjoyment on a beautiful piece of property. And I don't know who it was, this gentleman in the front row, and I'm sorry, I forget your name, but you're right. Everything that Mr. Myers and I had suggested you all do months and months ago seems to have been done. And I appreciate that because I don't, based on that meeting that day, I knew it was going to be a bit of a lift. Here we are. I'm disappointed that we don't have anything in writing at this point. I think the timing of this is rather just sort of suspicious. All of a sudden, we've got some areas of agreement late in the afternoon. You're right, Counselor Cheney. Why wasn't this done some time ago?
Yep.
So I don't quite know what else to say to get you to the table and to find compromise here so we can feel good about selling a piece of property here to people who will take great care of it, I'm sure. But here we are, it sits on the table. We move on. It does bring us to the end of our agenda right now. Council will be going into non-public session. After returning from non-public session, we will be adjourning the meeting, not taking up any additional city business, it'll just be for purposes of adjournment. But we're going to go under non-public session according to RSA 91A:3, Roman 2, parentheses D, consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property, which if discussed in public would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. So I think we need a motion to go into that. I'll be looking for a motion to go into non-public session. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. I don't know if we discussed this or not, but let's say there wouldn't be any discussion. I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll. I'd ask the chambers to be cleared right now, sir. Thank you. Please clear. Thank you. Folks in the back, excuse me. Excuse me, folks in the back, please clear the chambers right now. Thank you. I think she was working. Here. I've been here long enough, working on it for quite some time. And I try to remain polite. But I'm exasperated.
Okay.
Need me to call the roll.
Please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
That's 5 votes in the affirmative. We are now in non-public